the actual potential that we have in countries which have violated their agreements with us, or many international agreements, is simply to cut off disbursements. So if there's an education project or a health project going on, we suspend disbursements on that project, which is, as I was mentioning before, a very blunt instrument, and it's very frustrating to have to do it. Two other tools that we have. The first one is known as naming and shaming. In other words, the publicity, both positive and negative. And there, I would emphasize that in all human endeavor, positive reinforcement often works better than negative. So that if you combine the information and ranking, actually lots of countries look very carefully at rankings, whether it's the Human Development Index or Transparency International. Countries don't like to be at the bottom. So the putting the spotlight on a whole host of issues, including girls' education or HIV/AIDS policy, is very important.
Another question? Can you stand up so it's easier to us to find you?
Oh, sorry. Mein Name ist Yvonne Weiser. Ich komme von...
I'm from Davos. I look after orphans and handicapped children in Bulgaria. I'd like to put a question. How can one help children if one does not have any connections? How can one help these children, deprived children, people who have a lot of courage but can no longer continue? I have this boy in Bulgaria who's disabled. His mother just abandoned him. He's been placed in an orphanage, a home for disabled children, both mentally and physically disabled, but he, in fact, is not disabled, and he's waiting to be adopted. He's found a mother, but this mother cannot adopt him because the state of Romania, the government, will not release the child. Romania wants to keep this child, even though this child has never stepped on the territory of Romania. The mother is a Bulgarian, she's single, and she would love to adopt this child, this boy. I have no access to the authorities, to organizations, but this boy has the right to be mothered, to have a mother. So what can I do? That's a very, very difficult and complex question. I really don't know. I, of course, have great admiration for your commitment, and I really don't know to whom you could address yourself. I don't have the answer. Well, when an individual tries to do something, it's very difficult to overcome the obstacles. It's difficult to intervene as an individual, someone who's totally unknown. For a well-known person, for a star, it's easier to do something. For simple people, it's very, very difficult. Kenneth Roth, you want to come in on that?
I mean, it's hard to answer your question precisely, but I think what you point out, which is that any of us acting alone has a hard time making any difference at all. And one of the reasons why governments are so eager to prevent the emergence of civil society is because they know that fact. They know if they keep everybody isolated at home, we can't do anything. But if we band together, we can do a whole lot. So my suggestion to you is to find the groups in Switzerland that are dealing with issues of orphans or child welfare and work with those groups. They will have more clout, and other people, you'll find other people like you who share your concerns. And when people group together, you can make an enormous amount of difference. I think that's the important lesson.
Vielleicht kann ich auch sagen,
perhaps I could say something, maybe I'm wrong and making a mistake and I'll be reprimanded, but perhaps you could contact Mr. Peter Bry from terrorism. I'm sure that he could help you and give you some pointers. Would you like to say something to that, Angelina Jolie, or should we go on to the next question?
Only that I think it's wonderful that she's fighting for that boy and for all the children I'm sure that she has met. And I know a lot about adoption, but I don't know specifically why that country isn't making that possible. So I'd be curious as to the reasons why. And I'm sure those groups that Kenneth spoke about would be able to help you.
Gut, nächste Frage.
Very well, let's take the next question. Over here.
Mein Name ist Claudia Galli.
I'm Claudia Galli. I come from Zurich, and I have a question for Mr. Fichtel. In your daily work in the field, of what use is the International Child Convention to you? Is it really a good basis? Is it a good backing, specifically? Answer: well, it's always a good argument when I meet with government representatives and organizations. It's a good foundation on which to make claims and demands, to defend people. If we can prove, for example, how the convention is being violated by both parties to the conflict in Nepal, so we can make it clear to both parties that they are responsible for these things. There's also a Human Rights Commission of the UN in Nepal, and we will certainly not hesitate to bring to the attention gross commission of violations. As Kenneth Roth has said, is the only way as an NGO that you can also spread your own terror. Further questions?
Mein Name ist Hermann.
I'm called Hermann. I'm a Swiss. We've heard so many negative things, and I'd really like to tell you, or I'd like Angela Jolie to tell us something about a positive experience, and I would like to wish her all the best for lots of positive future experiences.
My God. A positive experience. Well, sitting on this panel has been one to hear from the others. I've had many positive experiences when I've traveled, mainly because of the people. I'm sure this lady here spoke about the boy. I'm sure that it's the strength of the people that you meet, and they're very inspiring. And we talk about the situation of everything going on in all of these countries, but I'm sure that the women you work with, and even the children that you've worked with, and as much as they're coming up against the most horrible things, I bet they are some of the most spirited, amazing people. So it's that constant. You are face to face with people who are just the greatest survivors, and pretty remarkable. The children are children, no matter where you go, and that's always such a beautiful thing. And I've obviously had wonderful. 2 of my children are from these countries, and they've been the greatest joy in my life, and that's certainly a positive. But thank you for your time.
Einfach aufstehen, dass wir...
Just stand up if you want to put a question, if you want to have the microphone.
Christoph Stückelberger vom Schweizer.
I'm from the Swiss Federation of Protestant Churches of Switzerland. I'd just like to come back very quickly to this question about this boy. In Romania, we have ADRON, which is the organization of churches in Romania, and is also supported by our Federation of Protestant Churches in Switzerland. So you could also contact the Swiss Federation of Protestant Churches so that you can get the contact with the organization in Romania. And I think it really proves what has been said. The networks that can be formed by these organizations and by these NGOs is very, very effective, and it is through the internet that you can find out which organization is active in which country. Obviously, if you can work through such an organization, then you'll probably get a better result. Mrs. Marshall, you mentioned one of the most fundamental human rights as being the right to food, to eat. You know that we are trying to make this a more compulsory right with the help of the FAO, and to make it a punishable act if the right is violated. In 2004, the mechanisms have now been reinforced to achieve this purpose. So